Can we move this along? I have a lunch reservation. Victoria Ashford, 23, doesn't wait for a reply. She scrolls through her phone, one leg crossed over the other, talking to the bench as if it's customer service. Judge Frank Caprio sets his pen down. Miss Ashford, this is a courtroom. Put the phone away and address the charges. I'm here. Isn't that enough? Her attorney, David R. Hale, rises quickly. Your Honor, my client is ready to pay all applicable fines and resolve this today. Mr. Hale, please sit. This court is not a payment window. The words are quiet but firm. Hale hesitates, then sits. Caprio taps his pen once. Officer Dantas, confirm we have the body cam audio ready. Yes, Your Honor. Good. Subscribe if you've missed Judge Caprio. This one gets tense, the clerk steps forward. Docket 24 to 10-847. Commonwealth versus Victoria Marie Ashford. Charges: unauthorized use of a disabled and van-accessible parking space, destruction of a citation, failure to appear on 3 summons notices, and contempt for prior no-show. Citation issued by Officer Leah Romano, Parking Enforcement, Wednesday at 9:42 a.m. Caprio leans forward. Miss Ashford, did you receive copies of the 3 summons notices mailed to your address? My assistant handles my mail. That's not what I asked. Did you receive them? I guess. You guess, Miss Ashford? Do we have delivery confirmation? The clerk nods. Yes, Your Honor. 3 certified notices, all signed for at the defendant's address. Caprio flips a page. There's also a note here. 14 months ago, Campus Parking Enforcement reported that you blocked a loading zone at Brown University for over an hour during a catering delivery. Not criminal, but relevant context. Miss Ashford, what happened then? Victoria shrugs. I don't remember. Probably nothing. The report indicates you told the attendant your family donated the library. That's not just a punishment for today. It's a pattern. David Hale speaks again. Your Honor, my client recognizes she could have handled this differently. She's willing to pay the fines and move forward. Mr. Hale, paying a fine only teaches how to write a check. I want to understand what actually happened. Miss Ashford, explain Wednesday morning to me. Victoria exhales, clearly annoyed. I parked in front of a pharmacy on Hope Street. I was inside for about 10 minutes. When I returned, there was a ticket on my windshield. I tore it up because I didn't think it was valid. You parked in a disabled van-accessible space. It wasn't being used, but that's not the point. You parked in a spot marked with the international symbol of access and diagonal striping. Correct? Yes, but it was empty. No harm done. Miss Ashford, harm isn't only about collisions. Denial counts too. Let me read a statement from Laura Bennett, a mother who arrived at the pharmacy at 9:51 a.m. The ramp could not lower. My daughter missed her therapy appointment. Victoria waves her hand dismissively. That's not my fault. She could have parked elsewhere. David Hale objects. Your Honor, this introduces emotional context irrelevant to the citation. Counselor, access denial is the key fact. Miss Bennett's daughter uses a wheelchair. She couldn't enter the building because your client blocked the only van-accessible space. This isn't emotional, it's factual harm. Caprio turns to the officer near the wall. Officer Romano, please read your narrative into the record. Officer Leo Romano steps forward, calm and precise. At 9:42 a.m., I observed a silver luxury sedan parked in a van-accessible space in front of Hope Street Pharmacy. The space was clearly marked with signage and diagonal striping. The vehicle displayed no disabled placard or license plate. I issued a citation and placed it on the vehicle's windshield. At 9:53 a.m., I observed the driver, later identified as Victoria Ashford, exit the pharmacy, remove the citation from the windshield, tear it in half, and discard it on the sidewalk. I approached her and informed her of the violation. She responded, "This is ridiculous. Do you know who I am?" I explained that the citation was valid. She then said, "Then write another one. My family funds this city." Caprio pauses. Officer Romano, did you interpret that statement as intimidation? Yes, Your Honor. Victoria leans forward. That was sarcasm. I was frustrated. Caprio. Let's hear it. Officer Dantas, please play the relevant portion of the body cam audio. Brief hiss of static. Then Victoria's voice, firm and dismissive. My family funds this city. Caprio allows a pause for effect. Miss Ashford, your father is Marcus Ashford, founder of Ashford Innovations, correct? Yes. And your family has made significant philanthropic contributions to Providence, including municipal projects, correct? Yes. When you said my family funds this city, what did you mean? I meant we support the community. Officer Romano, how did you interpret it? As leverage, Your Honor, an implied consequence for issuing the citation. Caprio. Sarcasm doesn't exempt anyone from following the law. Miss Ashford. Caprio turns to his clerk. Miss Reyes, were there any contacts to this court regarding this case before today's hearing? The clerk reviews the log. Yes, Your Honor. 2 incoming calls and 1 voicemail, all from a number registered to Ashford Innovations Donor Relations. First call at 10:18 a.m., second at 10:47 a.m., voicemail left at 11:12 a.m. Additionally, we received an email from a civic philanthropy liaison at 10:52 a.m., referencing a potential quiet resolution. Caprio, please read the email into the record. The clerk reads, Subject Case 24 to 10847. Resolution. We understand that a citation was issued this morning to a member of the Ashford family. Given the family's history of supporting municipal initiatives, we would like to explore options to resolve this matter discreetly and efficiently before it moves forward. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. David Hale rises. Your Honor, my client cannot be held responsible for communications made by her family's foundation. This is not relevant. Overruled, the judge responds. Pressures on the process are relevant when documented. I am not accusing anyone of criminal activity. I am merely recording facts on the record. Victoria shifts in her seat. I didn't ask them to call. Maybe not, Hale replies, but someone thought it would be helpful. Let me provide a timeline. The citation was issued at 9:42 a.m. The first call from Ashford Innovations came at 10:18 a.m., 36 minutes later. An email followed at 10:52 a.m. Actions were taken quickly. Caprio looks to the clerk. Is Miss Laura Bennett available to give a brief statement? She is, Your Honor, by phone, the clerk responds. The phone line connects. A steady but strained female voice begins. Thank you, Your Honor. My daughter has cerebral palsy and receives physical therapy twice a week. Wednesday was a critical session. We arrived at the pharmacy at 9:51 a.m. to pick up her medication before therapy, but the accessible van space was blocked. I could not lower the side entry ramp. By the time we found another spot and entered, we had already missed the first 20 minutes of therapy. The therapist had to reschedule. Access is infrastructure. It is not optional, she adds. Victoria mutters under her breath. Caprio addresses her. Miss Ashford, if you have something to say it clearly. I said it was 10 minutes, Victoria responds. 10 minutes is significant in a therapy window. Miss Ashford, Caprio notes. Miss Bennett, thank you. Your statement is on the record. The line disconnects. Caprio reviews another document. Miss Reyes, these are the 3 summons notices sent to Miss Ashford's residence. Clerk, can you confirm delivery? David Hale. Yes, Your Honor. The first notice was mailed October 2nd and signed for on October 4th. The second notice went out October 16th and was signed for on October 18th. The final notice was mailed October 30th and signed for November 1st. All 3 were signed by V. Ashford, or per V. Ashford. Victoria's jaw tightens. Victoria Ashford. My assistant signs for things, but you knew about them, correct? David Hale. I don't read every piece of mail. Judge Caprio, Miss Ashford, 3 certified notices over 4 weeks. That's not oversight, it's a pattern. David Hale rises again, more deliberately this time. David Hale, Your Honor. Given the Ashford family's significant role in municipal philanthropy, we request that the remainder of this hearing be handled off the public calendar. Public proceedings could complicate ongoing civic partnerships. Judge Caprio. Mr. Hale, transparency is fairness. This hearing remains on the record. Caprio fixes Victoria with a calm, steady gaze. Judge Caprio, I'm going to ask you 3 yes or no questions. First, did you park in a disabled and van-accessible space without authorization? Victoria Ashford, yes. Judge Caprio, did you tear up the citation and discard it? Victoria Ashford, yes. Judge Caprio, did you ignore 3 summons notices? Victoria hesitates. Victoria Ashford, I didn't think they were serious. Judge Caprio, that's not a no. Did you ignore them? Victoria Ashford, yes. David Hale, Your Honor, this is absurd. Victoria's voice rises. Victoria Ashford. My family has donated millions to this city. We fund programs. We support infrastructure. You wouldn't have half your budget without us. Judge Caprio, Ms. Ashford, donations do not buy exemptions. They should buy some respect. Do you know how much my salary is paid by taxpayers like you? David Hale rises quickly. David Hale. Your Honor, my client is, I own you. The words hang in the air. 5, 7, 10, 12 seconds. That was the moment money ran out of jurisdiction. No one moves or speaks. Victoria stares at the bench, realizing too late what she has said. David Hale goes pale. Officer Romano remains motionless near the wall. Then Caprio speaks quietly. Miss Ashford, you do not own anything in this courtroom, neither the process, the outcome, nor me. Here is my finding. The evidence supports all 4 charges. Officer Romano's account is credible and backed by body cam footage. Fixed lot photographs, the torn citation, 3 confirmed summons notices, and the timeline of calls and emails. You parked in a disabled and van-accessible space, blocking essential access for a family with mobility needs. You destroyed a citation and ignored 3 summons notices over 4 weeks. You referenced your family's financial contributions in a way Officer Romano reasonably perceived as intimidation. This court does not evaluate cases based on wealth, donations, or family foundations. Borrowed money does not equal borrowed authority. Your family's philanthropy does not give you control over public process. Privilege does not erase harm. Access is not for sale. Caprio pauses and turns a page. I also note the prior advisory from campus parking. That was instructional, not punitive. You were told once that loading zones matter, yet you failed to internalize the lesson. Consequences reveal what privilege obscured. The base fines total $750 unauthorized use of a disabled bay, $300 contempt for failure to appear, $300 administrative fees, $150. Victoria exhales sharply. Caprio raises a hand. I am not finished. I am staying $400 of that total, contingent on your full and timely completion of a restorative accountability plan. If you complete it, that portion will be waived. If not, it will be reinstated and you will owe the full amount. The plan requires written apologies to Officer Leah Romano and Laura Bennett, authentic apologies, not letters drafted by your family's PR team. Offer genuine apologies. State clearly who you are apologizing to, what you did and what you learned from it. Deliver these apologies in person if both parties agree to meet. If either party declines, send them by mail and the court will confirm receipt. Second, complete 150 hours of community service divided between 2 organizations. 75 hours at the Rhode Island Food Bank and 75 hours with the Mobility Access Coalition, assisting with accessibility audits and community outreach. Both organizations must submit attendance records to the court. There will be no press releases or photo opportunities. Third, produce and record 2 public service announcements for schools, approved by the court, addressing access equity and the distinction between charity and entitlement. Fourth, complete a donor influence ethics module, covering the proper separation between philanthropy and public processes. Certification of completion will be filed with the court. Fifth, submit a 900-word written reflection on the topic of money versus authority. This must be your own words, not slogans prepared by a communications team. Judge Caprio emphasizes, mercy is not a discount, it is a contract. Additionally, the following recommendations are being made on the record to the Municipal Court Administration and the Mayor's Office. Establish an ex parte influence log for all cases. Any off-record communication attempts, including those from donors or their representatives, will be documented and published weekly. Create a donor contact firewall with mandatory disclosure. Any case involving a defendant whose family has made significant municipal donations must be flagged, and any contact from donor-related entities must be disclosed immediately. Implement mandatory supervisor, co-sign, and recusal protocols. If any court staff member is approached by a donor representative about a pending case, that staff member must either recuse themselves or obtain supervisor authorization. 4. Develop a protocol for unauthorized vehicles in van-accessible spaces. These situations should trigger immediate towing to prevent access denial. 5. Produce a municipal PSA series on access rights, featuring real stories from families who rely on accessible infrastructure. 6. Establish a clerk hotline for reporting attempts to influence decisions. Any effort to use donations, connections, or wealth can be reported anonymously, and every report will be fully investigated. Subscribe for Judge Caprio. This system safeguards fairness. Over the next 12 weeks, Victoria implements the plan step by step. Week 1. She drafts an apology. The court rejects it, saying it's too polished and clearly written by someone else. She rewrites it in her own words. This version is better. Officer Romano agrees to meet her at a coffee shop near the courthouse. Their meeting is brief, uncomfortable, but necessary. Romano says, "When you said your family funds the city, it felt like my job was for sale. It's not." Laura Bennett accepts the written apology but declines an in-person meeting. She emails the court. She has acknowledged what she took from us. That is enough. Weeks 2 through 10. Victoria logs 150 hours across both organizations. At the food bank, she sorts donations, stocks shelves, and helps with distribution logistics. No press, no cameras. A volunteer coordinator reminds her that service is not about recognition. At the Mobility Access Coalition, she assists with accessibility audits at local businesses, learns how ramp angles and door widths are determined, and schedules community outreach visits. One wheelchair user tells her, "Access is not a favor. It's a right." Week 9, Victoria records the PSAs. The first drafts are rejected. They are too corporate and scripted. She records them again, simply and plainly, with no branding or family mentions, just her voice and the facts. The second versions are approved. The Donor Influence Ethics module takes another 3 weeks. She completes it without complaint. The ledger is straightforward. 150 hours logged, 2 PSAs approved, 1 firewall established, 1 entitlement interrupted. Officer Romano tells the court, she showed up every time. That matters. Subscribe if you're over 50 and follow Miss Judge Caprio. Should every wealth-based intimidation case include mandatory service? Share your thoughts below. 12 weeks after the initial hearing, Victoria returns to court, alone. No lawyer, no family representative, no entourage. Caprio reviews the submitted documents. The apologies, the service logs, the PSA recordings, the module certificate, and the written reflection. Miss Ashford, I've read your reflection. I want you to summarize it in your own words. No script, Victoria stands. I thought money meant access. I believed that because my family donated to programs, I could park wherever I wanted, ignore tickets, and skip court dates. I assumed that funding this meant I owned it. I didn't realize public office isn't for sale. It exists for service, she pauses. When I said I own you, I was wrong. I don't own anything except my own choices. Money can build a library, but it can't buy my way out of blocking someone's ramp. I blocked Miss Bennett's daughter from therapy. I told Officer Romano her job was for sale. Both actions were wrong. What did you learn from Officer Romano? That public servants aren't employees of my family's foundation. They serve the community, not individual donors. When I tried to use our donations as leverage, I was attempting to corrupt that service. What did you learn from the Mobility Access Coalition? That accessible parking isn't about convenience. It's about correct ramp angles, clearance widths, and transfer space. When I blocked that space for 10 minutes, I didn't just delay someone. I denied them access to medication. Time is infrastructure. Caprio nods. You stopped trying to control the system and began learning to respect it. He signs a form. I'm remitting $350 of the stayed portion. You still owe $400 in total. You'll pay it in installments over 6 months. The court will monitor compliance. As a reminder, Miss Ashford, access is not for sale. Thank you, Your Honor. Don't thank me. Thank the people who taught you what I couldn't. 5 months later, the new policies begin to take effect. The court releases its first ex parte influence log. 3 donor-related contact attempts are logged in the first month, all handled transparently under the new firewall protocol. Court staff report feeling protected by the disclosure requirements. The donor contact firewall is adopted citywide across all municipal courts. Cases involving major donor families are flagged automatically. Supervisor co-sign protocols are implemented smoothly. Disabled bay first escalation is adopted throughout the city. Average clearance time for unauthorized vehicles drops by 47%, and complaints from wheelchair users decrease significantly. The municipal PSA series launches, featuring testimony from families relying on accessible infrastructure. Victoria's recordings are included and distributed to 31 schools. They are not viral nor widely celebrated. but they are used and that is enough. One parent emails the court, "My son watched the PSA about van accessible spaces and asked why people block them. We had a real conversation about access being a right, not a privilege. Thank you." On a quiet Friday afternoon, Caprio completes his last case of the week. Before leaving, he writes a single principle on a note card and pins it to the bulletin board behind his bench. Public offices are not for sale. They are for service. He thinks of Victoria Ashford, Officer Romano standing in a parking lot with someone's wealth thrown in her face, and Laura Bennett's daughter waiting in the van while therapy minutes ticked away. He turns off the light and locks the door. Dramatization for storytelling and education purposes, not legal advice or reporting.